Hello, it's Randy here, and I'm going to show you how to use my Toastmasters spreadsheet for tracking finances. So this is the spreadsheet. There are 4 different sheets at the bottom here. You'll see there's a settings sheet, an income sheet, an expense sheet, and an income statements sheet. They all work together to give you your reports for the year. So step number 1 is you want to go to the top here and where it says type in your club name. Well, my club name is Grand River Toastmasters. That will then update all your reports and other sheets with anytime your name pops up, it'll show up there. You can set your own categories. These are the categories we have, but there's better ways to do it. This is the way it was set up years ago, and I've just added them into my spreadsheet. But you have your income categories. Now some you're going to have your membership income, which is what you're going to use for the majority of your income. You have donation income, fundraising income. We used to sell advanced manuals, which we don't anymore, so we'll take that, but maybe there's, if you have to pay for pathways income, but I think people do that on their own. If you want to track something that's not related to the organization, you can track that as well. Here you have your different categories for expenses. So we've separated them into different roles. If I were to redo this again, I wouldn't do that. I would change them up a little bit. But if you want to use ours, go ahead. So here we have president's expenses, room rentals, emergency reserve, awards, Christmas gifts, stuff like that. PPE, if there's any contest expenses for the VPE, printing, any kind of training expenses or supplies. VP membership if they have their expenses. VPPR if you pay for domain for a website, any kind of printing or meetup or Facebook, whatever you use, and then if there's any treasurer expenses, such and so on. If you don't like these, you can just go in and delete them. But you want to, whatever you're going to do, let's say you have rent expense, just keep it within this section if you're going to add a category, and I'll show you why in a minute. But your big ones are rent. You're going to have your open house expenses, supplies expenses, and so on and so forth. You're going to have different categories. From there, you can do anything that's not related to Toastmasters, but you probably wouldn't use this section, and then whatever your payment method is. So if you pay everything out of your bank account, your club bank account, and whatever bank you use, if you could change this to TD or whatever you use, you could change it there. Set this up once. Set this up at the very beginning, and then you'll never have to touch this sheet again. But anything you do here affects the other sheets. So once you start using one of these categories, right, you always want to keep it the same. Next is your income worksheet. So the income worksheet is separated into months. Some months have more spaces than others because there's just more things that are happening. You'll notice the yellow area is where you put in your information. If you run out of spaces, there's this little button up here called Add New Row. If you click that button, it'll add new rows to that month. If you click on this button and it locks you out, it probably means that your computer won't let you run macros. There's probably a yellow bar here at the top of the screen that says you can't do it. You need to go into your settings, allow macros, and then this little button will work. If the button doesn't work, then what you can do is you can copy and then insert a copied cell to add a row. But it's much easier if you can just click the Add New Row button. If I was adding in an income, so let's say usually in September, there's going to be people submitting membership dues. So let's say someone's a real keener, and as soon as September, it opens up and they're allowed to make a payment, they make a payment, and let's say it's Randy Moore, he wants to pay his membership, and he gives you an e-transfer, and you put that e-transfer into the checking account. Maybe here, type in e-transfer. And whatever your fee is, I believe ours is $180. And then let's say a couple days later, you get a check 1234 or 1235 from Parveen, and she wants to pay her membership, and you deposit it into the CIBC checking account. Well, let's say she only does a 6 month membership. You put all your memberships in here. As you're putting this, the most important thing is the amount and the income category. There's a drop-down box here. These categories are the categories from the settings sheet. So if you add a category and you go to your income sheet, it will then pop up in the drop-down box. You have to use a category from the drop-down box. You cannot type in your stuff here. It will not work. You have to use the drop-down box. It's so important. If you do this, it won't help. Let's say you receive $500 and you typed in your own information. When you go to your income statement, it got all those memberships, but it didn't get this $500 other stuff because you typed it in. But if, let's say, you had a $500 donation and you use the drop-down box, then the information flows through the spreadsheet and goes to the proper month. Likewise with expenses, when you're putting in expenses. So let's say, on the 15th of the month, you got around to, submitting the memberships for TI. And it probably wouldn't be if you were to reimburse yourself, so you would pay for the memberships and then you would be reimbursing yourself for those memberships. That's the check number that you wrote from the Toastmasters bank account. Let's say the check number is $255 and you paid that from the CIBC checking account or whatever bank account. And again, this information has a drop-down box. So that means it comes from this spreadsheet over here, and there it is. If I change this, let's say you also have a TD bank account. Again, whatever I type down here will show up in here. See, it pops up there. There it is. And for expense category, you would have memberships. Now, I deleted those categories. That's okay. Let's add one. So let's go to settings. Let's go over here, and we'll go memberships. And expense categories. Scroll down. Look at that, memberships. And let's say it's 150, whatever the amount is. You put it in there. You type it in that box, and then you'll see here we have the income from membership, income from donations. We have the expenses of memberships, and we have $620 left over. I'll leave that blank. So let's go to the next spot. So the next sheet is the income statement. So this is your report. You can do a little budget in here. So let's say you're budgeting, you're going to have $3,000 in memberships come in, and you were hoping to have $400 in donations, but you actually got $500. You can put in your numbers here for your budget for the year. We deleted a whole bunch of those categories, which is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide them. So I'm going to select them all, right click and hide. So again, I clicked on the 26, drag to the 43, whatever you want to do with yours. Right click and hide. That way the report looks a little bit nicer if you wanted to prepare this. Let's say your starting bank balance was, I don't know, $2,400, and the ending bank balance was $320. You would know you were reconciled. If, let's say though, that's check here, let's say the check here $150, what hadn't been cashed yet. I'll just do the math here in Excel. If I hadn't actually cashed the check and I wanted to reconcile and see if it works, the bank would actually say, actually no, it would be more than that. The bank would say $31.70, but I know that there's a check to me that's outstanding for $150. I would only do this at the end of the year. You would see which checks are outstanding. And here you put in the date you wrote the check, not the date that the cash was checked, the date you wrote the check. And here you can accrue it, and then this will tell you whether you are balanced or not. So the $2,400 that you started with the beginning of the year, but you added the $620 because you had $770 in revenue, you had $150 in expenses, so that means the bank account should go up $620. That's kind of factored in automatically. and you have an outstanding check of 150, so that way it balances your 24. That shows how you know if it works, if you're balanced. So I'll finish it here. This is the spreadsheet. I hope you use it. I hope it helps you. If you have any questions, again, my name is Randy. Randy at tv3tax.com is my email, and you can email me. Oh, and my information's here if you have any questions for me. All right, thank you. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you use it. I hope you enjoy being a Toastmaster, and I'm glad you took on the role to be an executive. Thank you.